First of all, it's getting dark. It's way past beer 30. But I figured I'd share this with you on account of a viewer named Joshua. Joshua is 80 years old and, due to a bad family situation, has two grandsons with two pickup trucks that got rotten frames up in the Connecticut, by Ansonia, Connecticut, up there. Joshua, I wanted to thank you. So, my conversation, my last video, I posted that I think Saturday night, and it was maybe about 10:30 on Sunday morning. Somehow he found my phone number, I guess, off the tailgate of the truck. You know, a little free advertising goes a long way. Hey, I'm all for it. Joshua wasn't up on the tools, and he's asking me what he's going to spend. The kids needed to buy a torch, and they wanted to get a plasma. Now, Joshua was a welder, and I guess he worked in the longshoremen, probably the union, doing welding. So he was just not up on where to go for things and what to buy. And I told him about that Titan plasma that Harbor Freight has. I'm tempted actually to try one, but they're testing. And I told him that you've got to buy a bottle of gas if you're going to run a 110. They're different than the 220 plasmas, much different. And if you're not running triple to dry, you're not going to do it in these humid environments. Now, maybe down in the Southwest, where it's drier and stuff, you have drier, less humid air. But I run a lot of water. I have to run triple dryers, and the desiccant, it fills it, and it doesn't take long. So, how to weld a frame was another. He wanted to know. He said, I'm not automotive related. I'm more marine related, and they change everything out. I understand that because I came off a Navy ship. Most of the stuff gets ripped out, but where you have good stuff, you bite into the good stuff, and you save it on account of a budget. Now, this truck, let me show you these areas. This is what I'm going to explain to people, and we're going to go over some old school hacks. Okay. In here, where there's weld, in these places, see that's a weld. That's all tungsten, hardened metal, okay? The rest is gaga. You want to hit those weld spots and put those patches in, okay? I don't care how big you got to cut your patch. And then sometimes you got to kind of lap your backside that it grabs onto something. But that's the magic of those C-clamps and stuff. You can do things that ordinarily you couldn't do unless, you have a drawer full of C-clamps like I do, okay? You got to catch those tungsten areas to weld your exoskeleton. This is called an exoskeleton. I'm actually going to create a box frame over the garbage box frame, and it's going to hold up because he asked me. He came this morning with the check. I was actually on the phone with another customer. I had other pains in the asses this morning and doing some ordering, and he came right away. This guy concurred with me like my truck. Let's come over here. I'm going to take the whole tripod. Okay, I just explained to you what we're doing. We're creating an exoskeleton, and I will exhibit that in my next videos. There's some of my next products. I'm doing the Uncle Tony. I just changed the oil on her. She runs smooth as glass. I had to take her back to my other tuner agent because my tuning software, I'm getting to know through these other guys, through my IQ. That's one thing that you have to have, like Joshua. 80 years old. I thought it was a woman on the phone at first. He was an 80-year-old grandfather, two grandkids. They have rusty trucks, and they don't want to buy another one. The trucks run good. The one just got a new motor and a new transmission. And he said, I'm not looking for you to tell me about a budget. Just give me a ballpark of what I got to spend and what I got to go for it. In other words, the money wasn't really the object. And that's why I'm exhibiting this stuff. See, there's staples throughout the years that I stay with. You got something crummy to clean up with? Boil some big pots of hot water, dump it in with the simple green. I get muriatic acid. Hey, the Orange Menace is here. You want to say hello? You do? He knows the camera's out, and he's telling me to put him on camera. Say hello. Well, you want to be on camera? You don't want to talk? Okay. All right. I don't understand. He wants to be on camera. He's talking, and then all of a sudden I put him in front of the camera, and he clams up. And it's not a gag. I swear to God. So, old school. Now, you guys with a nice car. I'm not talking show cars, but even you guys with a show car. Wool wax fluid film, they have a deterrent for mices. If you don't want mices and mices crawling up inside your ride, that's a good deterrent, putting that stuff on the frame of the car and in, the niece accessible areas, which got to get sprayed anyway. I do it here. But another thing nobody likes is insects. Twice a year, in the spring, the summer, and sometimes in the fall. Like if you have like I have my red truck, okay, and you don't want the cap there area, your storage there where you're going to go to the store maybe one day. I use that during the winter sometimes when it's really inclement and it's snowing and blowing. Okay, I don't want to take the tire out. It does no good, especially if I'm going to get a large order of food or something I got to pick up. You don't want to find it full of spiders and insects. This stuff, it says it lasts somewhere. It does a pretty good job. I don't know if we're going to have any hell raise. Somebody hit the line painting truck. They heard that boom crunch, and there was a big stink and a bunch of, naturally they were south of the border kamikazes. They hit the line painting truck. It was funny. I heard the air horn. Okay. This used to foam up real nice. It used to be a real nice product. It ain't. This product, Zip Wax, this died probably about in the 90s, and that's probably about where this dates from. I got this at the auto parts store where they were going out of business. That's what I told you about this area where I live. Okay, these are all things and products that I've used through the years that have never let me down. When you want to clean parts, muriatic acid, the actual stuff, if you use plumbing acid to clean auto parts, particularly carburetors. Muriatic acid and aluminum, oh my God. If it's diluted enough with the simple grain, you're not going to hurt it. The only thing you're going to do is clean it. And a lot of the problems with an aluminum carburetor is the oxidation of the aluminum itself that contaminates the carburetor, especially with ethanol gas. And I try to explain this to people, and it goes in one ear, right out the other ear. Okay, that's your problem. Because my dad had a backup lawnmower. He had a turn to. His fancy John Deere took a poop. They couldn't get parts. And the other one took a poop. It couldn't get started. That has twin cylinders with the big carburetor. I took the carb apart. The float was fine. But I could see all of the aluminum oxidation all over the brass float. I took the brass float. It floats. I sunk the brass float. It sunk, and it come back up. It wasn't leaking. Needle valve. The needle valve and seat, they were froze solid. I had to actually pull it out of there with pliers, and all I did was I actually took steel wool, and I just rolled it and cleaned it. But then the area was all pitted where the seat, where it would go down in there. That took a little bit of my magic, simple green, muriatic acid, and a Q-tip or two. And I'm talking the wooden ones, the ones on the wooden stick, the Q-tips. This is all stuff the old gearheads we all know, and a lot of people don't share on YouTube. Like, oh my God, you can't do that to a frame. That's when they used to tell people you can't weld or heat or cut a frame. It was all bullshit spun by dealerships to sell you a new car. Oh, if you got to do that. I mean, these diesel truck shops, they literally cut frames in half all the time. I think the line painting truck is leaving. I think the accident's over. Kind of comical. So, that was all started by dealerships and rumors. Do you think when I ran a stock car, especially, we weren't running Molly frames and that stuff back when we were running the street stocks and street sliders. We just went out and got another frame off another car and cut out what we needed and put it in. We're not dissecting the whole car. I mean, even though they were pretty easy to, those cars were pretty easy to take apart. I mean, they weren't made out of much, especially if you tubbed them and everything and put, you just basically, you put a skin over the car. But then it evolved, and if you're going to do that, you might as well go into modifieds, and that's what I did. There was a lot more money. But these are old school products that I rely on all the time, and just like my knowledge of how to reconstruct the frame. You gotta compress the metal. You gotta have a smoke wrench or a fire axe or a torch. I heat the metal up. I crush the metal. I beat the metal with my hammer. Okay, and then I get a weld or a tack. Sometimes you got to weld it and tack it, where you can get a weld and a tack, and you beat the metal there, and then you do your weld from there. But a lot of times, when those frames are rotten like this one, remember what I told you about the slag popping back in your eye just from a torch cutting it? You're also going to get that slag from a welder. It's going to pop. It's going to crackle. Snap, crackle, and pop. That's why you want to hit those areas where there's tungsten. The factory welds are the best areas. He's going to have a double wall frame the same as he has, so he's not going to suffer, and he will pass inspection. And I think he was a little impressed on the reconstruction. I'm hoping he was, but I showed him I know what I'm talking about and what I'm doing, and he went a little bit up and above. So I think I'm going to get him a complimentary muffler. I got to find out because the check was a little bit more than what I asked for, which is it's a rarity. But this is a mature guy. These are the customers I prefer. This guy's also going to send somebody else, and just like I told you, Tara's my spirit horse, that truck. Okay, see the horse on the license plate there? I don't know if you guys can see that. It says Spirit. That's my spirit horse. And that's what he said with his truck. They're going to put his casket on that truck. So he's probably going to spend more money next year with me, with that truck. Okay? It's a no-brainer. Those things, you're putting investment in your future, because this guy is like me. He's rejecting this new technology, which is where I go to Uncle Caveman Tony, as they call him. Tony's garage. I would take my Mopar there any day. Any day. Don't pick on that guy. Okay? He's right. This old school stuff is better than $1,000. And basically what I'm going to do with this, between changing over the brake lines, a new fuel pump, new fuel tank, he's going to have basically a new truck for cheaper than the payment you can do with another one. And so it needs a few other things. They make metal for him. They make rockers for him. So what the hell does he give a shit? I feel the same way about Tara. I'm very attached to that truck. Her frame's getting the same thing. Her frame's getting an exoskeleton. Her guy's lucrative enough. Remember, it's a dirty habit. And they're using a lot of banana leaf in these. That's why people are coughing off of them. There's nicotine there, there's some flavor, but they're using a lot of, I noticed in my areas where I smoke, there's a lot of ash, because these things burn up because they're putting a lot of crap in them. I should quit. But anyway, the point is, the man's not going to suffer. He's going to get to keep the truck, because now he has somebody working on it that knows what they're doing, and it's not going to rot out. It's not going to fill up with Mises. Okay, so take some of my tips. Remember what I just told you about that, where the original welds are. I don't care if it's like a cab support on the frame. I'm not talking the body supports underneath. You can buy all that and weld that in easily, even rivet it in. A lot of that stuff, and it'll stay. But when you got to go to the frame, you got to find those old welds, because it's all tungsten. It's all hardened there. That's your secret. And that's why a lot of guys that, who did this welding? Because they can see their bubblegum welds. Well, even on the tungsten, you're going to leave sort of a bubblegum weld. And remember my other video? What did I tell you, folks? I am going to try an actual stick weld. I'm talking to a guy that's down in the valley here that does this for himself. And see, a lot of guys, there isn't a lot of money in this. We make enough money to pay maybe a bill or two, buy some food. This is not a high dollar. As much money as the man has given me, most of it's going into his truck. Okay, and I did appreciate the little bit going over that he did. I can pay a bill and maybe have a little room power, but I'm going to labor on this thing for the next couple of maybe a week or 2 or 3. It depends on this weather. We just had thunderstorms roll through. So I'm not trying to be droll with you. The old school products, I still rely on them. The new school stuff, maybe some of it works better, maybe some of it is, but it's twice as expensive. So I just go back to my roots. And that's also what I'm telling you about welding on the frame like that. And you'll be surprised how that turns out. I mean, it's not going to look like the original frame. I'm not going to try to put all those tapers. It's nonsense. When they developed a frame on a truck in the 1940s, it was a straight frickin' rail with wheels and springs on it. Okay? We don't need to taper all that crap. Okay? We're just going to make a nice box frame. It's going to be nice and solid. He's going to get it inspected. Okay? And as I said, I think I'm going to throw in a compliment, with his extra money. I'm going to throw in a complimentary, muffler. He's got to go for exhaust. He needs shocks. I'm going to do the brake lines. Simply because once I get it running, I'm not going to be able to move it. And once I take those apart, they're not going back together. So I got to do what I got to do, Thanks for watching my videos. Remember my welding tip. Look for the hardened welds.